that may not even be biologically happening quite yet at the earliest place where the baby doesn't have sense of gender yet, but that there still may be really important dynamics that are playing out at this deep level. So another point that I think is really important is this idea that I think some other people have been suggesting, that when we talk about going on being, how many mothers in our culture have that for themselves? And to think about how is the mother with her 5-week-old baby, in order to achieve primary maternal preoccupation, she has to have the most amazing sense of self, the most amazing ego strength, in order to achieve that primary maternal preoccupation. I mean, that's a huge achievement.
Plus, we have to assume that she's dealing well with sleep deprivation, that she doesn't have any postpartum depression.
Exactly right.
That there are other major stressors that are going on around her, like poverty or
5 or 6 other kids.
Right, exactly.
So one idea that I had that might help mothers or help all women, but if you're going to go ahead and have babies, is that one might be able to succumb better to primary maternal preoccupation if one has a relationship with one's own double. That if one has that relationship going on, then one does not have to get one sense of self. One can let go into this because one is grounded in
without
this.
fear of losing the self.
Exactly, without fear of losing the self. And that's, so the double is, I think, really important in this idea. So I wanted to talk about projective identification a little bit. So I want to talk about Bion. Now, Bion is a theorist who is like unbelievably esoteric, and I don't want to pretend I've read him, I haven't. But I took a class from a guy who explained it really well. I like what the guy said, and I'll just pass it on to you for what it's worth, okay? Because I don't want to pretend like, I just don't want to pretend like I know beyond this. I mean, I don't want to pretend as much as I can possibly avoid it. But I thought, there's a cool idea. So Melanie Klein is the first one to help to identify this idea of projective identification. And he has a really good way of explaining it, I think. So over here you have the baby. And then over here you have mommy. I want to say, by the way, that Winnicott says that primary maternal preoccupation is possible even if you're not the birth mother. Okay, I just thought I'd mention that. That, theoretically anyway, it's possible, I think, if you have the relationship with the double and everything, to be empathic with whoever the newborn is, theoretically. So the baby is in distress. The baby has a need of some sort. The baby is pre-verbal. Can't say, hey, I'm hungry, I need to be held, I need to be touched. The way the baby communicates the baby's need to the mommy is through something that Melanie Klein called projective identification, which is essentially the feltness in the baby, which is, let's say in this case, this is sort of mounting anxiety at a need not being met. That the baby has what Bion called alpha bits, and they're like undigested, difficult feeling states.
Is it beta?
Huh?
Are they beta or alpha?
Maybe they're beta.
Beta elements.
Those are the beta.
They're the betas.
Beta elements.
See, I told you I didn't read that. What if I pretended I read it? Now I'm cool. Okay, so the baby has these, but they're undigested beta bits, right? Difficult feeling states. Oh my God, I'm hungry. And it starts to mount, like I'm not going to get fed, what's going to happen? And this becomes life and death event pretty quickly for the baby. So the baby basically, essentially puts those feelings energetically, we could say, into the mother. There's an actual energetic communication that goes into the mother. And the mother's job here then is to digest and metabolize these beta bits and then feed them back to the baby as alpha bits. Okay. So, oh, I see that you're freaking out. I see, oh, you're disturbed. What do you need? I know you need something. Maybe I can hold you. Maybe I can rock you. And we're gonna figure it out. Don't worry about it. And this kind of digesting with the baby, and that soothes the baby and calms the baby down.
Can I just say something? I was watching, I'm sorry, it's a loose association, but I think this fits. I was watching, was it Grey's Anatomy last week, where, I don't know if you guys watched that show, but there's one of the chief surgeons is this woman who's just had a baby, and one of her trainees are holding the baby. She's doing surgery, it's like a complicated surgery, so she hands off her child to one of her underlings, and this child is crying, and the underling doesn't have a very maternal, that's the whole storyline. Anyway, she has the baby cry into the speaker, and the surgeon, as she's doing surgery, says, let me hear the cry. She says, oh, that's cry number 4, the baby's hungry. And I think it was, in a way, it was sort of trying to dramatize this, that mothers tune in and they could sort of understand, much the way we communicate with our pets sometimes, or we know by the tone of the way they, you know, they do their meow or their bark or whatever, that we can sort of, after a while, we get it internally, we can sense it, what it is that they're saying or what it is they need. That's what I'm thinking about when you say
Yeah, that's a really, really nice illustration of that. Yeah, this attunement the mother has, like, and even if she doesn't know what it is, she has some capacity to hang with the baby in the baby's distress.
Right, exactly.
Okay, which is like really the key here. Like, because the new mommy really maybe doesn't know, and the baby's, it's like, how's the mother gonna like not flip out over that? And then, you know, just to kind of build on that, if the mother doesn't have that capacity, then the mother essentially doesn't metabolize it, gets more anxious, or, you know, throws the baby down and goes away, or does something that ends up really charging this up in the baby, and the baby then never has any ability to regulate affect, which is an idea that comes with this guy, Alan Shore, who's done all these studies now on, or has put together all this information about what happens in the neurochemistry of the baby and the mommy when they're interacting. And has basically shown that the interaction between the mommy and the baby, that the mother's gaze and how the mother looks at the baby and attunes to the baby and knows when the baby has had too much and can look away, is actually the way that the baby's neurobiology comes online and the cell starts to develop, and all of the systems in the brain come alive as a result of this interaction. And they can actually show that the frontal cortex in the mother and the baby actually light up, literally light up energetically, you know, so you could see that.
Sandra, they light up when there's a connection?
When there's a connection, yeah. Yeah, when there's a connection.
Metabolism. Yeah, I think they're looking at metabolism or something like that.
Yeah, I don't.
Some kind of scan of the brain so they can see
they're
it.
looking at neural firing.
Yeah.
In the final. Yeah.
Right, neural feedback, and so it can literally be seen. And that if this doesn't happen, then, what that means is the baby's brain is developing and the self is developing and so forth, and if that doesn't happen, then things that are supposed to come online don't come online. And that's going to segue me into what happens to lesbian babies.
Well, I think the part of
Yeah, I'm probably going to take issue with you on that, just by virtue of this problem of heteronormativity, that the mother's gaze on the baby, especially as the baby starts to become older and more of a person and looking for relatedness and looking for mirroring, which the baby needs to become herself. and the mirroring doesn't come because the mother is saying, look at this cute little baby girl who's going to grow up and be just like me. And it happens at this level of projective identification. This is my point. I'm showing, this is how it goes baby and mommy, but mommy can also feed beta bits to the baby. The mommy can feed her undigested beta bits to the baby. And that, so we could say that, so then I'm going to postulate that the mommy who's looking at the baby and thinking my baby girl is going to be heterosexual is feeding these undigested heteronormative elements into the baby. And this lesbian baby, it's like it's kind of not, there's some way that the mirroring is off. It doesn't feel right. And that's how I feel it in my body. It's like, it actually, the feeling is kind of like, like a wall, like a blank wall. It's like a wall pressing away the lesbianic kind of tendencies. That's,
The mother is pushing the baby
yeah,
away.
through the projective, is pushing away the lesbian tendencies in the baby. The part of the baby that's lesbian, that's archetypal, that's already there, that is going to grow into being a lesbian, that wants to start to come online somewhere along the line here. The projection that you're heterosexual is going to prevent that from coming online. It's going to prevent that in the baby from coming online in a good way. I don't want to say it's going to prevent it from coming online because, hey, the power of lesbian eros is really like, comes anyway. It's magical in that way. But to come online in a good way, where the lesbian doesn't end up feeling filled with toxic shame and self-loathing and feeling like her soul has been murdered in the way that Yep was describing. Yeah, that, it's going to come online, but...
Sandra, I was thinking there's this image of the mother's kind of, this heterosexual mother's difficulty in imagining the baby in a lesbian way. Has something to do with also like, because if she starts imagining the baby as lesbian, she has to take her own body as erotic. And I think so many women have such a wounding around their own bodies in that way, of being perceived in a way that's not an objectification through the masculine. And so it's like, for her to deal with that is just so unbearable that I think that's in some ways what she then pushes away. And with that, the lesbian eros that the child might be having. And just having that image of that go on.
I just wanted to say that the sense of a wall being projected is very apt because the situation is a mirroring situation, and the lesbian baby is not getting mirroring. They're staring at a blank wall. They're not getting any of the mirroring that they need, and it's not just the issue of a heterosexual mother deliberately shaming the baby or deliberately saying, don't grow up to be queer. It's the complete absence of the possibility that that child is lesbian. It's the complete absence of...
It's like lesbian doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not this aggressive, gay bashing the baby. It's this annihilation by invisibility and by absence of that even being a possibility for that baby.
This profound silence. Yeah. Yeah, which echoes then, how adult lesbians feel. I'm not mirrored anywhere in the world. All of this can then also get easily projected out into the world. Where are all the lesbians? Where's lesbian? There's this tremendous invisibility in the culture, in the society. But I think the initial problem is here. This is the initial problem, and it's profound because, imagination key to becoming, is key to being human. And being able to imagine and being in fantasy. If you read psychoanalytic literature, there's all this discussion about the baby's fantasy, the fantasy, the fantasy, the fantasy life. And this aspect has been banished. So in other words, it's really problematic for heterosexual babies too, okay? This imposition of heteronormativity, you know, in the way that Yep defines it, it's like, you know, it's very narrow.